From the City of Angels, you are listening to the James Salazar Media Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about some movies, so let me strike the music, and I'll meet you on the other side.
Engage. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Say hello to my little friend.
No, I am your father.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
And welcome to the James Salazar Media Podcast, where you get your weekly dose of pop culture, politics, and futurism. I am the formerly mentioned James Salazar, aka The Media. First-time listeners to the James Salazar Media Podcast, why does he call himself the media? He calls himself the media because most of the media in the United States of America is opinionated. And I just have just as much of opinions on things as they do. So if they can call themselves the media with their opinion, then I'll call myself the media with their opinion. It's not like they're doing actual journalism. I digress. Hope everyone's doing okay. Today we're going to talk about some movies. We're going to talk about the Snyderverse, the Justice League version 2.0. We're going to talk about King Kong and Godzilla. Going to talk about the Winter Soldier and the Falcon, or the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and how I think it's going so far. And just a warning right now, there's going to be spoilers. So it is April 10th, 3 p.m. on a Saturday. If you have not watched, go do that. Push pause and go watch. Or just get my opinion, see if you want to watch it at all. Here we go. I have a rating list called potatoes. 5 potatoes good, 1 potato bad, and you got potatoes in between. Clear enough? Easy enough? Hear that burp? That wasn't an audible burp. Excuse me. That wasn't an actual burp. That was like a stomach growling in me, or adjusting some fluids in my stomach to make that sound. That was very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So let's get into it. Nerd alert. Nerd alert. Do I have a nerd alert? There's my nerd alert. We're going to get into stuff concerning movies. As you know, I am a sci-fi fanatic freak. I'll even watch bad sci-fi. I like horror. I like fantasy. And I'll watch all of it. Because, if I'm going to see a drama. But I like dramas, don't get me wrong. But when the new seasons come out, when we get into fall, when I start looking at what networks are coming out with, I always look for the sci-fi show first. I'm not going to look for another CSI or, some cop show. I'm just not going to do that, even though I'm watching a cop show called The Rookie, which I like, but it was really following Nathan Fillion, who is from Firefly, and we're just watching the show with him because he's, I like supporting what sci-fi actors who got their start in sci-fi and where they go to keep on supporting them if possible. Because sometimes doing sci-fi can kill your career. There's a lot of Star Wars and Star Trek actors that were so typecasted because their career started with a sci-fi show that they weren't able to find any work or the work that they would have wanted. They're not going to get into... They usually don't grow into like Brad Pitt fame. There's only one person I know is Jason Momoa, who started off with Stargate Atlantis, which he was cool in. Now he's one of an A-list stars because of the Justice League, which we're going to talk about right now. So Yeah, I've always been a DC fan. Couple Marvel things I liked. I liked Spider-Man, Wolverine, and the Punisher. And that's pretty much it. I liked the Phoenix Saga. It was way more interesting than what they ever did in the movies. They probably could do it well now. My brother and my cousin turned me on to comic books, and I collected not like every episode, but every unique episode, or they had a series that intrigued me, I would get them. I wasn't someone who had to get like Action Comics every one. If like there was one I got into where the Justice League fights like these gods, these angels, and these warring angels, and I thought it was interesting. I collected that series. The Hunter Prey series by Superman story where he meets Doomsday again, and he fights Doomsday much smarter and off planet, of course. So I collected things like that. You know, I've always loved the Christopher Reeves movie of Superman, and it seemed otherworldly to me. And Brendan Ross came back and tried to do Superman Returns. I enjoyed the movie, but a lot of people didn't. He looked too much and acted too much like the original Christopher Reeves Superman, what he was supposed to do for his arguing his case. In his defense, that's the word I'm looking for. He had to mimic, because it's the same world, same character of Superman, but people just didn't want to see him in it. I don't know if some people thought it was stepping on Christopher Reeve's grave, so it didn't do well. And Brendan Ross went on to do other things, and he's gotten work. Great for him. And he did a great job, I thought. You can't replace an actor that was so beloved, probably because he's dead. Like, we know for Star Trek, the reboot, that Chris Pine took over or replaced an aging William Shatner as for James T. Kirk. And some people didn't mind as much because they wanted to see those stories more than I guess they want to see those characters. And I guess that's a lot because, and I think they were able to accept it because people are in love with Star Trek as opposed to being in love with Captain Kirk. Even though people like Captain Kirk, and they would never want that character not to exist. But they want to tell the stories in the Star Trek world, and they're willing to get a whole host of new actors to do it as long as they honor. And for Brendan Ross, I don't know why it didn't work. Maybe because Christopher Reeve is dead, or maybe people wanted something new. So the new thing came along. Said all that to say this. The new thing came along with Zack Snyder, and he created The Man of Steel with Henry Cavill as Superman. And I liked it. A lot of people had a lot of criticism of it because it was so dark. But it really goes into the idea of what if there was an alien on Earth, and the ramifications of people finding that out would dictate a father saying, this is a spoiler, maybe you shouldn't save people because they're going to find out that such a being exists and the government's not going to like that. So people didn't like how Jonathan Kent, Clark Kent's father, Superman's father, did not want to expose his son to government scrutiny, society scrutiny, which we see play out in the other movies, and just to keep it under wraps until he's of the age. And a lot of people just didn't like how dark it was and didn't like Superman killing somebody at the end. But I don't know where they got that, because they got that from the Christopher Reeves Superman. Superman has killed in the comic books. He's a reluctant person. It is his last choice, but it is still a choice he makes very rarely in the comic books, but it did it. And in the scene that we're talking about in Man of Steel, he had to choose to kill an evil person who wanted to take over the world from murdering a family with his eye rays or heat vision. And Superman had to take him out. People got upset over that, but it's a much darker world compared to Marvel. Now, Marvel, they're going to tell a joke. They have these characters in it that are snarky, sarcastic, sometimes shittily break the third wall and make comments about this ridiculous world they're living in, that takes you out, that makes you feel like it's a more comic book movie, and it's way more playful. It's not that people don't die and things happen. They do. They sort of, in a sense, we're seeing now in the Winter Soldier the ramifications of certain things that in the movie Endgame and Infinity War didn't address until we're seeing now in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. In the Superman movie, Zod and Superman are these super beings, these gods among us, are destroying cities and people are dying in the thousands. And we see that as the beginning of Superman versus Batman, which at first I didn't like because there's certain things I just didn't like into the story. But you have to watch the unlimited version because there's so much left out that explains the reasoning of the director, Zack Snyder, of the choices he made. Still, there's certain things I thought was just a little bit too easy, or he thought that would make an emotional impact that didn't. It seems silly in the long run. This is a spoiler alert. As you see in Batman versus Superman, one of the best scenes in all superhero movies is Batman coming in on a helicopter into Metropolis, which was one of his subsidiary companies, or his company. The Metropolis version is Metropolis is being destroyed by Zod and Superman, and he gets in a car and he's driving through the streets. He's dodging buildings falling. It's pretty amazing. And his company, the building in Metropolis, Wayne Enterprises, crumbles because of the fight between Superman and Zod. He ends up running into the smoke. A kid almost dies, and it shows a scene where Superman is like flying through the air, pushing Zod down to the ground. These small little people, these two small people affecting buildings and destroying the whole city based upon their fight. And you see in Batman's eyes, which Ben Affleck, I felt, did an okay job. He's not the greatest actor, but he didn't shit on the role. He did a good job, and I prefer that he comes back than them to put another actor in his place, because I think he did a good job. Great job for him. But you see in Superman's eyes that this is unacceptable. Through the whole movie, he sets the case that this guy can turn on us at any minute and we can do nothing about it. So he's on this journey. I'm not going to spoil the whole movie for you. He gets kryptonite, and he has a big fight against Superman at the end, which he wins because of kryptonite. Spider-Man? No, shit. Getting all these guys' names. Batman is known as a very thoughtful detective. He has 5 plans ahead of everybody else, and this is how he beats basically Superman with his brain. Even though he's using his brawn and weakening Superman, Batman not having powers makes him an exceptional fighter, because he knows that's what he has to be. So he beats Superman's ass because he got kryptonite on him, and he's about to kill him. He's won the fight, and he does not kill him because of one reason. Their mothers share the same name. And in fact, it feels better in the extended cut because he says the same name his father says when his father got killed going out of the theater. The traditional Batman origin story where his father and mother gets shot, and his father cries, whispers out in his last breath, Martha. And Superman says, save Martha. He's saying, you're going to kill me. Save my mom, at the very least. And Batman's like, why are you saying that name to me? He freaks out and decides right then and there that Superman is no longer a threat anymore because their mothers share the same name, and he throws the thing away. It's the bad part. Okay, Superman dies fighting an abomination of Zod's body by Lex Luthor. And Superman ends up killing Doomsday, and Doomsday ends up killing Superman in a dramatic event, and Superman dies, but saves the day. Okay? This sets up the Snyderverse Justice League situation movie. Okay, that took about 10 minutes to set up. So Zack Snyder is filming Justice League. Okay? He has so much hours into it. Then a tragedy hits. A tragedy hits his family. His daughter commits suicide. And instead of waiting for him to grieve, putting it on hiatus, they said, we're going to do it without you. And we're going to bring in Joss Whedon, who's done Buffy the Vampire Slayer and some Marvel movies. And he comes in, pretty much hacks it to shit. Puts it all together in the way that he sees fit, which is more Marvel-like with snarky comebacks and jokes and a more lighter mood. But it comes out and people hate it. People hate it. Nobody liked it. Everybody thinks Joss Whedon has done a terrible job. And now, after we come out with this four hour version, all the actors were talking about how terrible it was working with Joss Whedon and how he destroyed the script and their storylines. So basically, once the movie came out, there was some kind of like groundswell, grassroots movement to bring out what Zack Snyder wanted to come out with, called the Snyder version of the Justice League. And the groundswell gets bigger and bigger, and then Warner Brothers and HBO see an opportunity to make a lot of money. So they said, let's re-release this. First time that's ever been done in the history of movies. They're going to just ignore what the other director did and the other movie was and come out with this new version, same version, just brought about in a different way. I mean, Zack Snyder has so much filmed, and Joss Whedon threw out all of Zack Snyder's film and just refilmed the whole thing, about 90% of it. A lot of it looks like the same film, but it's not. It's all of it's reshot, and it's actually Joss Whedon reshooting the scenes. Zack Snyder scenes were original. So the groundswell happens. They create it. The Joss Whedon version is about 2.5 hours. The Zack Snyder is about 4 hours. And probably would have been about 3 hours, maybe 3 hours and 10 minutes. But since they weren't under any kind of constraints, they decided to make it more than what they were going to make it and put in a bunch of scenes that wouldn't even been in the movie if Zack Snyder did the movie in the first place. So it's 4 hours long, cut up in 6 parts. You can watch it by part. You can try to watch it in 4 hours. I watched it in 4 hours. And it's great. Much improved. A lot of it makes more sense now. And the characters are more depth. And let me tell you what stood out to me. Number one, even with the Josh Whedon version, I've never really liked Cyborg. I thought it was just campy and cheesy. But even in the Josh Whedon movie, I thought his character was pretty amazing. I get it now. I didn't get it then. And I was like, that was the best part of the Josh Whedon version was the Cyborg. I was pleasantly surprised by it. In the Zack Snyder version, not only is he important, they doubled down on it, and he is one of the most important and powerful characters in Justice League's history. The way they presented and the powers that he had, and they explained his backstory and his frustrations and his way of doing things. A lot of things make sense now, and they go deeper into his story, and I even like the character even more. All the other characters I like, but this was fresh and new, and the story was great, written out, and I'll just say this, we'll get a little bit of politics. You can write a significant story and put a black actor in it and be just as good as any other. You don't have to make Superman black to have a black relevant character and actor. We saw this with Black Panther. We see this with Cyborg. And you just need better writers. You just need better writers to write better black characters. And if they're written well, they'll succeed. It's about the writing. You can create a black character, I truly believe this, that's just as significant as Superman. Just do better. Better writing. And Flash. Flash was the savior of the story. Now, I told you spoiler alerts already, so don't say anything. Should have got off. But he saves everybody. He was just the guy who was telling jokes, who can barely do anything. But he's the guy who we see arguably is one of the most powerful characters in all of DC Comics, of all comics. So that was amazing. They delve into his love scene. This was a very great scene, a very artistic scene, where he meets his love of his life. If you know his story, you can figure that out yourself. He's just not some dumb kid who runs fast. But like he says, when he meets with Batman, and Batman throws his star at him, he says, "You're fast." And he says, "That's an oversimplification." And he explains to him that he can, that everybody doesn't listen. He explains to him, "Hey, I can do this thing called the Speed Force, and I can reverse time." And Batman doesn't even acknowledge what he's saying. But that is a critical moment in the story where he saves people. He saves the whole freaking world. So he's a much more powerful and relevant character than it did in the Josh Whedon. And the enemy, Steppenwolf, which is a weird name, reminds me of a 1970 or 1960s band, looked way more aggressive and did way more meaner things, and had way better battles. But let me tell you what I didn't like. They tell the story in the front or somewhere in the middle of it where Apocalypse comes to Earth to take it over, and all the Atlanteans and the Amazonians and the humans and the Green Lantern Corps fight Apocalypse. And Apocalypse gets beat really quick. He doesn't seem like a character. He doesn't seem like a Thanos character. And we know he's probably just as strong as Thanos and just as devious, but if not more. But they make him really weak. So I thought that beginning scene where he loses the battle on Earth the first time, and he sort of forgets where Earth is. I don't know how they explain that. He suddenly forgets it. It just, I don't know if it was writing fatigue and they're just trying to get things done, but I didn't like that. I thought he should have been shown as a very powerful character that was incredibly hard to beat. And like, if I was writing, like, luck of a chance, some circumstance, somebody did something that got Apocalypse, looking the wrong way, and they were able to take advantage of that wrong decision by Apocalypse and beat an impossible character. It didn't look like that at all. It looked like they all got together and they all like fired at him at the same time, and he was like, ugh. And he gets an axe thrown on him, and he's like, they pull him back into the ship and they leave. So Steppenwolf seems way more than an intimidating character to me than Apocalypse. So, and that bothered me because I'm a purist, Like in Star Wars, I didn't like that Rey didn't have a learning curve. She was ready to fight people who've been trained for a long time, and every Jedi has a learning curve. They can be impressive, they can be powerful, and they can learn fast, but they can't learn within a day how to do things and fight a sword fight. We know that some of the best Jedi, I'm digressing here, some of the best Jedi were taught over years. So I don't like these inconsistencies in power. So he didn't seem like a threat in that, and he's been alive for a long time in that moment. Thanos was written very well. He always seemed a threat. He's always seemed impossible to fight. And people never get that Thor did beat Thanos. He just couldn't stop him from snapping. But Thor beat him. In the end games, he said you should have went for the head. But at that moment in time, Thor won him. He stuck Stormbringer right into his chest. But, and if Thanos didn't have the rings, he probably couldn't have healed from that strike. I digress. So, again, that's what I didn't like about it. And didn't like Wonder Woman music. It was a little campy. I like that she chopped off his head. Not Apocalypse, but Steppenwolf. That was cool. And Superman did seem meaner in this. I mean, in the Superman, in the ending moments, Aquaman plunges his trident into Steppenwolf. Then Superman decides, I'm going to hit this dude as hard as I can while he's being staked alive, which is like a team up to murder this guy. And he sort of seemed okay with it. So there's a little bit of change in the character right there. And that change of that character leads to these alternate scenes of alternate realities, or a probable reality where Superman has turned bad. So let's see how this plays out. So right now, how this playing out, Warner Brothers does not want to continue the Snyderverse, which would end up in another Batman and Superman movie. So far, only Wonder Woman, which didn't do good in the pandemic, only one who's has the strongest position is Aquaman. But it's going to be hard to create a relevant story other than the one he has, because pretty much people don't want to see people fighting with dolphins a lot. At least that's what I think in purposes. So there's going to be a Aquaman movie, but I don't think they're going to do any more Snyderverse universe movies. But people are fighting against it. People are constantly calling them, sending them letters saying this is unacceptable, because they want to go with the Robin Pattinson's world of DC, of Batman, and the Joker, which came out with Joaquin Phoenix. They want to be in that universe now. They think that's where the things are going to go, where they will succeed. But right now, there is a steamroll to want more of the Snyderverse. So if you like the new version, it is incumbent on you to call your local senator, I don't know, senator, or call the Warner Brothers and the directors and tell them this is what you want. You can have two things at the same time. Doesn't matter. And they're thinking of doing that, but Warner Brothers doesn't want to do it, but they might have to do it because of the ramifications if they don't. People just might boycott the Robin Pattinson movie because they didn't give people what they wanted. So, for me, Joss Whedon was so disappointing, the movie. I gave it 1.5 potatoes, I think. Or I'm just giving it now 1.5 potato. It might have been 2 potatoes, but compared to the new one, it gets lowered to a 1.5. And the 4-hour version, the Zack Snyder version, the Snyderverse version, gets 4.5 potatoes. Almost 5, almost perfect. It needed some things. It wasn't the perfect movie. It was not. It has some wanting, but it was great. And the feeling it gave me goes a long way for me, in a sense that they corrected a lot of things I didn't like. So it's going to get more extra love. It might be a 4 potato movie, but I'm going to give it 4.5. But it's not a perfect movie because I still want to see, well, not that I want to see. I think they missed an opportunity to show how badass Apocalypse is. And he got his ass whooped quick by Hercules and some other people. So that's that. So 4.5 potatoes. This was a long diatribe on the first one. It took 4 hours to watch it, and it took me a half hour to talk about it. So there we go. Let's end this. Let's give this a Chewbacca goodbye. Now we're going to talk about Godzilla versus King Kong. Spoiler alerts. Spoiler alerts. Saw this on HBO at home. Made monkey popcorn with that's semi-sweet chocolate chips with marshmallows and popcorn. That's delicious. Made Monster Blood drink, which is Squirt Ruby Red. Looks like Monster Blood. It's not like our blood, but Monster Blood always has a more of a dark orange, and that's what it looks like. And we had green spaghetti, Godzilla spaghetti, and King Kong muffins. And we watched it at home, and it was fun. What do I say about this movie? This movie had some great things in it, and it has some terrible things in it. And pretty much, all the terrible parts was when the humans were on screen, basically. And the lines they were given were so hokey. And the situations that they were in were so unnecessary to tell the story. This is go what I like first. First of all, Godzilla fights with King Kong were pretty epic. They're about 2. And I don't want to spoil this for you. There's a third fight. I'll let you watch that because this is 2 brand new. But what was I going to say? Yes, the fights were graphically, special effects were amazing. They have a battle on the sea and a battle on the land, and both were pretty epic. And I guess one criticism is that King Kong fights more like a human than he does a gorilla. Number 2, the King Kong inside Skull Island is way meaner looking and aggressive. This one seemed older, which should have been, but more playful and didn't look very aggressive. He often looked funny, and I thought that was a misstep. I expected King Kong to be even more meaner, more aggressive as his age progressed. But then he has some ridiculous storyline with some kid. And the people who are in charge of King Kong, I love the actress, but they were not. No one did them any favors with the lines that were in this movie. I mean, you could have kept it a whole 45 minutes shorter and just cut out a lot of those situations. Millie Bobby Brown, fame from Stranger Things. She was in the other movie, the King of Monsters, Godzilla, which was a much better movie, but has some pretty stupid dialogue in it too, and pretty stupid premises. And this overall stupid premise is that in every monster movie in Japan and in concerning Godzilla, is that he has to have some special relationship with some kid that says, Godzilla, thank you, Godzilla, for killing Monster X. And it's like dubbed over but it's a Japanese movie. They did the same thing with Millie Bobby Brown. It's stupid. There doesn't need to be a relationship between Godzilla or King Kong with a young kid that makes him nice. He would normally stomp on them, eat them, and pick the meat out of his teeth with her femur. I just don't like it. I like that King Godzilla is not putting up with any shit that King Kong is coming into his territory. I like that part. I like they fight aggressively. And who won? I'm not going to spoil it for you. Who won is who I wanted to win. Who should have won, right? Just saying that. But, yeah, the fights were good. I thought King Kong could have looked a little bit more aggressive, more meaner faces. I could have done away with all the humans in the story. Just like the guy who was in the first movie. The second movie, the father. He just came on the screen for like 5 minutes. What do we need that for? It's a waste of his time. I guess it's a paycheck, but I don't know if it's fan service, but the saving grace of this movie is the fights between Godzilla and King Kong, which is the title, which should be. They're very good. Now, I could have done with an extra fight and got rid of some of those humans, for sure. And it leaves it open-ended, sort of. So I'm going to give it a 3 potato. It's not a 2 potato. It's not a 4 potato. It's right in the middle. 3 potato. all the potatoes, 3 of those potatoes, all have to do with King Kong and Godzilla fucking each other up. Other than that, the lack of the other 2 is because of the humans and the dialogue. That's what I feel. But overall, why you give it 3 rather than a 2 is still very entertaining. And it's fun to watch. So there you go. That's what you get that. Let's end this off with a Chewbacca. So I'm watching the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. 4 episodes in. And, I got a little down that the universe of Marvel has slowed down because of COVID. And it took me a while to get to watch, I don't like when things end. But I think things should end. I just don't like it when it happens, and no one should. But the story gets value because they do end. Things don't stay the same, and things change, just like in life. And that's what makes them valuable. So, but we know that Marvel's going to do another 10-year run to a major event. And you got to start watching it from the beginning. But the characters we're looking at are not as compelling as Iron Man and Captain America and Thor, who pretty much, ignited, started the first 10 years. Now we have 2 shows, WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Took me a while to watch WandaVision, but I eventually did, and I liked it. And now I'm in with The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I was not trying to get my hopes up. But Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, they have chemistry on the small screen. And they're smart because, and this is spoilers, they have all the sentiments that we have about somebody else being Captain America. All those sentiments are in the show. That it's not the same. Nobody really can replace. And that leads them up to very uncomfortable situations when certain characters don't pick up the mantle and the government starts to pick the people who will. And we're coming into a lot of problems. So overall, I don't want to spoil it because we're right into it. We're only 4 episodes in. And you're probably 3, you've been listening to this podcast for a while, and you're not going to come back to it at this point. Probably not. So I'm not going to spoil it to you, but I'm going to give it, so far, 4 potatoes. I'm very entertained. It's good writing. The Winter Soldier is badass as he's always been. And we're really seeing how badass the Falcon is. We're seeing a lot of good fight scenes with him that we're probably would never seen in an Avenger movie because people want to see the Hulk and Iron Man and Thor and Captain America to fight. So we're seeing how important this character is and what a power he is. And Sebastian Stan as a Winter Soldier, we're seeing the Winter Soldier, how badass he is, and he's killed people for 40 years, and some of those people were nice people, and he was doing it at the beck and call of evil people. And there's some emotional situations that are in him that he has to address, because he did do that for such a long time. So I like where it's going. I like the sentiments in the storyline. The action seems very cinematic, just as good as you will see in the movies, which I'm very happy with. So far, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a pleasant surprise. I'll give it 4 potatoes. It's on its way to a 4.5, depending on how the ending's going. And if the ending's spectacular, well, I'll give it a 5. But if they drop the ball, it might go down to a 2.5 or stay at 3. So that's that on that. I do not want to spoil it from you, but it's going great. The chemistry is great, and the action is good, and the storyline is impressive. Some villains are helping out right now, and I like the dichotomy and I like the conversation. I like the dialogue. I like the writing. It's well done. So, 3 potatoes so far, but it's trending towards 4. Trending. A show that I've recently picked up is called Project Blue Book by History Channel, and it talks about and it goes over all the most credible credible reports on UFO activity that is given out by the citizens of the United States. And there's a lot. Some are just people just seeing, a blimp in the sky, but there's some that still have questions, and they go over those and they add to it some fiction, which is great. Or what if it was true? This is what we speculate would have happened if it was a flying saucer, if it was an alien. So it's a really good show. I like it. It's set in the 1950s during the Cold War, with America in the middle of the space race with Russia, and we're not knowing what is true, what is a lie, and what is misinformation or disinformation. So it's a very good show. I like it. I suggest it for everyone. It only goes 2 seasons. I think it would have done a 3 if it wasn't for COVID. That's happened a lot with a lot of TV shows, but I'm enjoying it thus far. It has an overarching storyline, but it doesn't need it. It's sort of a UFO for the week, basically. You can watch it, and there's a mystery to be told, and there's things to be figured out. And most things that they're dealing with, that the scientist that's on the job gives you a natural answer for. So that's good. So right now, as I'm seeing it, I'm just finishing the first season. The first season gets 3.5 to 4 potatoes. I'll say 4 potatoes. It's very interesting. For a certain type of person who loves this type of shows, it's going to be a 4 potato for sure. So definitely watch Project Blue Book. I'm going to end it there. I don't want to fill your mind with so many TV shows. I'm watching quite a bit, and I will get back to you at the finale of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And there's a couple of shows coming up, and I'll tell you how they started, and a couple movies happening, and that I'm excited for. And we'll do another pop culture movies and TV shows. And we're going to end off with Chewbacca. Hey, this is James Salazar with James Salazar Media. Have you heard of Legal Shield? Well, Legal Shield is prepaid legal services at the touch of your finger. For the longest time, people who have lawyers have different outcomes than people who don't. That's just a fact. But with technology, Legal Shield at a low price can give you great legal services at a reasonable rate. 20 years ago, I had an opportunity to join Legal Shield, but for me, it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't comprehensive enough of a coverage to justify the payment. If I had to pay people anyways after the $24.95, because quite simply, just not enough people in it. But 20 years later, 4 million members paying $24.95. It covers way more than it did before. And lawyers are getting paid what they're worth, and you are paying a reasonable rate for their services. because you all pay in collectively. And they're able to do that because of smartphones and the internet. It's such a game changer that you can go into the app that they give you, press that you want to talk to a lawyer, and they will connect you to a lawyer as fast as they can. This is a game changer. If you get pulled over by a cop, you can press that button and get a lawyer on to be with you while you're talking to the cops, if you're afraid of your rights being trampled or for your life. Since the history of man, there's never been anything like this where you can have a lawyer on retainer for such a reasonable price that you can have legal protection at any moment of the day. I am dedicated, and I am now a part of Legal Shield because I want everyone in the United States of America to have legal protection for such a reasonable rate that this worry about police and the legal system can be done away with by having proper representation. And the more people who jump on Legal Shield, the more power the citizens can take back and create a legal system that is more equitable for all. In the show notes, there is a link if you want more information. This is James Salazar. Okay, friends, that's it. That's where we're going to end the podcast today. Hope you like the reviews. We'll be coming back with a coaching corner. And yeah, that's it. So if you want to follow me on any of my social media platform accounts, just type in James Salazar Media. I should come up. Please subscribe to the podcast. Please leave a review. Also, we're going to be coming out with some products, some coaching products. Stay tuned for that. We're also creating a new band called Murder of Crows. Information about that will be more forthcoming. Also, yeah, that's it. So, my friends, if the storm of life's come against you and you find yourself on your knees, stand tall and take a look at that storm. And I want you to say what my sensei, Jack Burton, always says: give me your best shot. Strike the music.